from Jackson. That's a sacrifice to leave, to come up here and, you know, just to be here. And like I said, I just love the saints. I thank God for what he has done. I thank God for giving me a good husband in my old age. I waited, I think, 33 years before my husband came along. But, like Brother Lee said, you don't want just any old body. You know, you want somebody that's going to be the help to you. Sister Walker, Jesse Walker used to say, you want more than breath and britches. But I thank God for my husband. I thank God for my husband. Like I said, I got married late in life, and it was a little hard because you're used to running your own show. And then when somebody says, no, you can't do that, it's like, you know. But like I said, I just thank God for it. My mother dearly loved my husband. Absolutely. She did. And she loved Brother Bruce. She really did. She loved Brother Bruce. She would go up to him and tell him he was a GM. Good man. I appreciate how him and Bruce Jr. were there. I didn't know that she had passed, but they had called me, and not them at the hospital, had called me and told me, you know, a few things. So my husband had to get home from work, and then we had to come to Springfield. And we couldn't be there at that exact time. So I called Brother Bruce. I said, you know, I don't think she had passed, but I told her, you know, if they had called her in or whatever, she was not doing good. He said, I'll be there. And so I called Bruce Jr. And I said, Bruce Jr., I said, she's not doing good. He said, I'm on my way. And I thank God when we got there, she had already passed. And they were there just waiting for me and my husband. And it was such a comfort, you know, having them there. And I just appreciate, I do, Brother Bruce, I appreciate you. I give you some flowers now. I appreciate you. You've been there for me, you've helped, and I've been sick at times, and you prayed for me. And my husband that time, my husband just fell out. And I didn't know if he was dead or alive. And so I called Brother Bruce. And Brother Bruce prayed the prayer of faith. My husband got up, and he was fine after that. So I just appreciate the saints. I appreciate the love. I just love all of you. It's just so nice to see your faces. As I look around, I appreciate you all. And remember me. Amen.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Lord for His goodness and His mercy unto me. Thank the Lord for giving me the opportunity to know my mother-in-law for 17 years and giving me this time to know her, and appreciate her life and appreciate her daughter. She told me several times, she said, I'm glad you married my daughter. I said, well, I'm glad I married your daughter too. Just thank you. Come on, brother.
With remarks also from Brother Tony and Sister Kelly Robinson, followed by Sister Wanda and Brother Wilbert McKeithen, and then also Lisa speaks. Then after Lisa will be Angela, in that order.
Where can we start about our Aunt Shirley? You know, Aunt Shirley lived right next door to us down here for quite some time. How many years?
33 years.
About 33 years. And, you know, we kind of felt bad at first because she lived in the house next to us that Sister Joan owned, but she wanted a bathroom on the first floor. And our house, it's a double, and it happened to have the bathroom on the first floor, and that was the reason why Aunt Shirley actually moved into our house. But like I say, she's been there for years. When my wife and I first got married, we've been married for 33 years. And there's a story.
Actually, it's 34. Shortly after we got married, we lived in that house that Sister Joan owns now. We had owned it at the time, and we lived in the basement. And shortly after we moved in, the couple that was there moved out, and Aunt Shirley moved in above us. And my husband was working nights at the gas station down the street, and Aunt Shirley had come down and said, I want you to show me how you can cook for my nephew. I want to see if you can cook good enough for my nephew. So you make me something to eat, I'm going to try it out. Ooh, okay. I don't remember now, going back, it was either spaghetti or pork chop, I can't remember, but I made it and I went up to the door and knocked on the door and she come, saying, Shirley, I made that dinner if you want to come down and, get your plate. And she came on down, she made up herself a plate, turned around, walked right back upstairs and locked the door. I am by myself, expecting. My husband's at work and she wanted to play. I thought she was going to sit down there and eat with me or something. My husband got home and said, Aunt Shirley is so nerdy. She sat there and just took that food upstairs and didn't even sit there and say, this is pretty good. It's not so bad. You should do this or that. But fast forward when she moved over to the other side, and here recently, whenever I make having 6 in the family, going down to just Tony and me or Tiffany when she's there, it's difficult to make less. So I usually make enough for Mom and Aunt Shirley and Tony, myself, and my daughter if she was there. And I called Aunt Shirley, I said, hey, you said it. I said, 2 to 1. Oh, and she's sitting on my couch. I said, you want to come to the front door? She sure will. She knew it was coming. I'd have a hot plate made for her, and I usually would buy some Diet Pepsi for her too, so she had to pull me up for her. And she'd say, I'm going to go in there and eat it right now. And then in the summertime, we'd be sitting out on the front porch and, hey, Kelly, you got one of those Klondike bars? So I got this, and this. She goes, I'll take one of each. I bring out a Klondike bar and hand it to her. She said, well, I only get one? Shirley, you eat that now, then we'll talk about the second one. I love Aunt Shirley. I'm going to miss getting together with her and getting her a pot pie, chicken sandwich, and visiting with her. I'm going to miss it.
Well, Tuesday morning, I would go by and pick up Aunt Shirley for a Tuesday morning prayer meeting. And her thing was, after prayer meeting, she loved going to Speedway and getting a cup of coffee. And she would not let me forget that. As soon as I get in the car, we're going to get a cup of coffee? Yeah, Shirley, I'm going to take you to get a cup of coffee. So we love our Aunt Shirley.
Good afternoon, Stacy, or morning, whichever one it is. Kind of nervous, but that was my buddy. Aunt Shirley was my buddy. And even though we had ups and downs, we still were friends. I mean, we always stayed friends. She taught me how to love. I was the type of person, I didn't like to hug and kiss. But Aunt Shirley, she hugged me, and she kissed me on my cheek, and I go, ooh, dog kisses. That's what I'm telling her. She liked that. So, but anyway, I lived with her upstairs, and I lived down in the downstairs apartment. We would always go to Walmart together. We go to yard sales together. We stopped at Monday's grocery store when it was open, and we get us some bologna and bread and go to the yard sale. And we went shopping. We went to church meetings together, and one time I wrote a church meeting with her. And she played the same tape, gospel tape, all the way there and all the way back. And when I got married, she made my gown and she made the bridesmaid's dresses. And after that, we would still go out and everything. We were shopping, and she would go out to eat and everything, and she would make sure I take care of Wilbur. She asked me, we got anything for dinner? you know, she made sure I would take care of Wilbur. Make sure he had something to eat, and she would get him something for his birthday, you know. She didn't leave him out. You know, she always, you know, she loved me, she loved him too. And, so she would get in the car sometimes, and we go out eating, and she'd say, where we going? And I say, I don't know. She said, ain't no restaurant called I don't know. She was something else. She was something else. We sewed together, and I'm a cake decorator, and she would come over and help me with the cakes. When I was in a bind, she would come over and help me out. I think one time we was up to about 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, because it was early, you know, either late at night or something like that, help me with my cake. So we called each other all the time. This is my last part. I don't want to take up too much time. We called each other all the time. And Shirley always had to listen to what I had to say. If I had problems, I felt down, she listened to me. So she would call me, and she said, you know how you say, what are you doing? She would say that. She'd say, what you doing? That's what she would say. So by the grace of God, I would like to meet her up there and tell her, what you doing?
Mommy adopted me in 1967. Her Chuck. She convinced Chuck to adopt a girl. And one of them girls. And I remember growing up, I got a lot of them. Mommy was being a lot. It's because I was curious. I was always curious. I was always into something. But Mommy taught me, she taught me how to wash dishes. Because if I didn't wash the dishes right, I washed all the dishes in the cabinet. She taught me how to tuck bed. She taught me how to have respect for myself. I just know that Mommy was a good person. She loved wholeheartedly. She taught me how to have compassion for other people. Like, I'll take people in my home too. People need a place to stay. I'll let them stay with me. It's hard to kick people out, but I've learned over the years, to have a good heart. And I learned that from my mom. She gave me also a green thumb. She loved plants. I love plants. I have so many. But I thank Mommy for that. And I thank everybody for coming.
So I met Sister Shirley through my brother. I used to live in Texas, and I would hear my brother tell me things like, my neighbor just cooked a bunch of food, and she's brought it all to me just over and over again. And I never knew that I would even come to Ohio then. So when I moved to Ohio, I did not have a place to stay. My brother was living in the basement in the same house where she lived, and he had a roommate. So I didn't have a place to stay. And he asked her if I could stay with her for just 2 weeks while I tried to find a place to stay. And before the 2 weeks ended, she told me that I could live with her for as long as I wanted. So I ended up living with her from 2010 to 2017. And we built such a very strong bond. She would refer to me as her daughter. She would do something for me and I would thank her. And she would say, well, you know you're my daughter, right? So in a way she was saying, you don't need to thank me because you're my daughter. And I admired so many things about her. She loved God. And she loved people. She just loved to be around people. She'll be in the house and be like, I'm so tired of being in this house. I just want to go out there and be around people. And we would meet people at the store, at the restaurant. She was ready to make somebody smile, somebody laugh. She had a bunch of jokes and she would just talk to a stranger and before you know it, they were both partying, laughing. So I admired just how lighthearted she was, how generous and kind she was. And she taught me so many things. You see, I'm from Africa and both my parents are there and most of my family are there.